Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jim Kleiber Show. It is today, Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. It's 9 p.m. in the Eastern Time Zone. And how y'all feeling today? Slow news day, fast news day, depends where you are in the world. If you're in Nigeria, perhaps things are going really fast. If you're in Azerbaijan or if you're in Armenia, I believe those are the two countries that are in conflict, then it could be going really fast. If you're here in different parts of the U.S., maybe it's spiraling. There's elections starting and um, early voting and election registration, things like this. Here, at least for me, it didn't seem like there was a lot going on in the news today, but it's also, again, because I didn't pay too much attention to it. But one thing I did notice was I watched the Supreme Court hearing today, or a little bit of it, and I guess the overall impression for me is something that has happened to me before. It's when we look at people going into public office, how much do we actually look at the skills that they have to do the job? It's like we look at hiring somebody for a job, and one of the most important things we do, I think, is to look at the skills. But maybe not. Maybe even in jobs, we don't look so much at the skills. We look at people's beliefs and we look at people's pedigree or background to see if they look credible or not. But I imagine many companies, when they're hiring for somebody, they want to hire somebody who has the skills to do the job. And when I look at the quote-unquote job interviews that they're doing at the Supreme Court hearings, it doesn't look like they're actually asking questions about her abilities or her skills. So imagine someone who is going to become a Supreme Court justice would require skills of being able to interpret the law, being able to read through lots of different challenging cases, the ability to look up precedent and remember precedent, the ability to write, the ability to work with others to make a decision, the ability to, I don't know. I mean, this is me just spitballing on what are some of the abilities of someone who would be a Supreme Court justice. But I would hope that people who are in the Senate, who are confirming this person, would know even more in depth what skills would be required to serve in this position. It shocked me that they were asking so many questions about her belief systems, really, almost trying to get at the output of which decision she would make if she were in. Is she going to overturn Roe versus Wade? Is she going to do this? Is she going to do that? Talking about the outcomes that she would have instead of the process and the skills that she would have in delivering them. It would almost be like, are you going to balance the, are you going to create the balance sheet? Well, do you even know how to create a balance sheet? Are you going to make us money? Or do you have the skills to make us money? I don't know. It seems so very outcome oriented in terms of the Supreme Court hearing. And then it reflects, I reflect more on how we elect officials. And it seems very similar that we look towards a lot of our officials and we look to see what beliefs that they have, or at least say that they're going to have, and also the things that they say the outcomes that they're going to achieve. And we don't seem to look at whether they have the skills to do the job. And what skills are required to do the job. If someone's becoming president, it's a different skill set than somebody who's a senator, which is a different skill set than somebody who's a representative in the House of Representatives, which is, I think, a very different skill set than being a mayor or being a governor or being a doctor or a nurse, or et cetera, et cetera. There's so many different skill sets that we need to move through life and achieve and accomplish the things that we're set out to do. And I just wonder whether that figures in to people's, into how we vote and how we choose, public officials. Maybe people do think about this. Maybe I'm not the only one. Maybe people, for example, say, oh, Trump is a businessman. Therefore, in their mind, they're thinking he has business skills, he has negotiation skills, he has reducing spending skills. He has making profit skills. He has some of these skills. I mean, how often do we just assume that somebody has a skill based on what they've done in the past? Somebody's got a certain type of stamp on their resume, or they tell a specific story about their past. And we go, oh, this person must know what they're doing. They must have the skills. Maybe I told this story before, but I was an intern when I was still at the university, or in college, as we'd say here in the U.S. When I was still in college, undergrad, I had an internship with Caterpillar. And I had just come back from studying abroad in Costa Rica, where I spent 4 months learning Spanish and interacting with kind of culture, learning about Costa Rican culture and Latin American culture. And so I come back and I'm working at Caterpillar and I speak Spanish pretty well. And one day someone calls on, somebody from a different department calls on the phone and says, "Hi, I know you're an intern. We have a group coming up from Latin America and we're looking for some people who speak Spanish fluently to help guide them through the plant as they do a plant tour." And they said, "Do you speak Spanish fluently?" I said, "Well, I mean, I think I speak pretty well, but I don't know if I would say that I speak fluently, but I think I speak pretty well." Something along those lines. And then the phone, "Oh, okay, we'll let you know if we're still looking for somebody." And then like a week later, I went to a party with all the other interns. And I noticed, I talked to one of the girls and she says, "Oh, I got to do this plant tour with all these people from Latin America." I said, "Really? You did? Oh, it's great. Like, you speak Spanish?" And I tried to talk to her in Spanish. She's like, "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" I'm like, oh no. She must have told them that she spoke Spanish fluently. And even though I believe I speak much better than she did, I didn't have the confidence when I was saying it to somebody else. And so this is a challenge sometimes when we look at people's pasts, or we look at the stories that people are telling, instead of looking at the skills that they actually have. Sometimes people can give us a story that sounds like they're very good at what they do, but they may not actually have the skills compared to somebody else who undersells what they do and can actually perform the act very well. I don't know how common it is in job interview processes to have people go through kind of exams or tests or kind of this like practice to see if somebody has the skills. I know in engineering, especially computer engineering, kind of software development spaces, they do a lot of coding interviews where they'll have you basically go up to a whiteboard and try to solve some coding problems live. And I've heard it can be very stressful for many people to go through this experience. I had it a little bit when I applied to do, I think it was maybe some community management work at one of these boot camps, like these coding boot camps in San Francisco. And I think they had me do a little bit on the whiteboard, but not too much because I wasn't going into a technical role. But what would it look like if our election process had some type of test? Not like, some test to just see what skills people actually have. Not the skills that they've boasted and they've beat their chest about and said that they're so great at this. Let's see them actually do it. Let's see them actually role play. Let's see them actually perform in different situations. Let's put them through kind of like an intense interview process. Maybe this comes back to the types of debates that we have. Do we really have debates, or do we have side-by-side television interviews? How could we make this much more interactive, much more representative of the skill set that they would need once they get into office? I think we could gain from a lot of creativity in some of these processes. But maybe people don't want this. Maybe, again, I'm just kind of shouting out to the void and assuming that people want, that we want specific skill sets in office. Maybe we just want somebody who believes what we believe. And we want somebody who is going to guarantee a specific outcome for us. Maybe we say, okay, we want to make sure that abortion up to a certain age is legal throughout the whole country. And so therefore, I'm going to vote for whoever says that they're going to go for that. Who knows? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the process here in the U.S. or in your country favors voting for people who have the skill set to be in the position? How would you describe the skill set? Do you even know what the skill set would look like? How do the skills vary from one position to the next? I don't know. I think there are a lot of ways that we can go about voting, and a lot of reasons why people vote for people or vote against people. I'm feeling somewhat jaded with the whole process. And maybe sometimes the jadedness is the voting for someone. And it's something I've thought about before in the past. That maybe one of the best things about democracy is not that we vote for someone and that we have the ability to choose who our leader is, but more so that we have ability to choose who our leader is not, and to do so through a nonviolent means. So in the past, and still today, in regimes and societies where democracy is not very strong, one of the only ways to remove someone from power is through violence. It's through violent coups. It's through arresting somebody. It's through war and things like this. Whereas one of the benefits of democracy is that there's a peaceful transition of power that doesn't require that exercise of violence. And so again, I think a lot of times we think about democracy as this, how do I want to put it? That we choose affirmatively who is going to lead, and that it's all about choosing affirmatively who's going to lead. But I think a lot of it really is choosing the people that we don't want to lead anymore. Okay, we no longer have trust in this person. Here in the US, it's not so obvious maybe sometimes, but in other countries, especially I think with the parliamentary system, they have a vote of no confidence. So when there's no longer trust in, I believe, the prime minister, but maybe also the ruling party, that there's a vote of no confidence, and then things rearrange themselves. I think then another group comes into power. I'm not sure exactly how it plays out, but there's this element of, if we no longer feel confident, we no longer trust the leadership, we can have a vote, we can vote them out, and new people will come in. And while we in the US don't have such flexibility in terms of doing that, there's impeachment, but that's not a very direct democracy approach, directly democratic approach. There are means for us to do it every 2, 4, or 6 years, typically, where we can vote to have this person removed and vote for another person. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Are you excited to vote? Are you afraid of voting? Do you find it pointless? Do you find it meaningful? Do people in your family vote? Do you want them to vote? Are you okay if they don't vote? It's tough. I'm feeling the short, I'm not feeling so strongly on the show tonight. I think I'm going to cut it short. I'm actually just going to go 15 minutes. Yeah, I think I'll be honest, I'm pulling straws right now. I just wish the voting process can be the same. I just wish we looked at it more from a skill-based perspective. Do these people have the skills that we want them to have to be in office? Do they have the skills of writing or reading legislation? Do they have the skills of researching? Do they have the skills of building consensus? Do they have the skills of apologizing and forgiving and rebuilding and repairing relationships? Do they have the skills of public speaking? Do they have the skills of grieving? Do they have the skills of comforting a family who's lost someone? Do they have the skills of comforting the nation when we're in a troubled time? Do they have the skills of admitting doubt? Do they have the skills of building up hope? Do they have the skills of talking blankly into a screen? Do they have the skills that we think one should have to be the president or vice president or attorney general or Supreme Court justice or senator or representative or mayor or governor or state representative or city council member or any of these public roles that we're looking at? Because shouldn't we be trying to get the most skilled people into these roles? Shouldn't we want some of the most talented people in our country in these positions, making some of the hardest decisions, doing some of the hardest, most difficult tasks, building and managing some of the most innovative teams or challenging, managing these teams to fulfill such deep challenges? Isn't this what we hope to have? I don't know. Anyways, like I said, I'm feeling a little short on this one, and hope that's okay. Sometimes it's just not flowing, and it's not flowing, and that's part of life, and we can try to beat ourselves up and push through it. Sometimes it's nice to get out of class early. So I'm going to end this one pretty short, and I hope you all have a good night. And stay cool, stay calm, or feel whatever you want to feel. It's all good. It's okay to feel whatever you want to feel. Emotions are emotions. We're humans, and we are the ones who have them, but so are other animals. We all got similar stuff going on. So, all right. Au revoir.